Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. So glad you guys could join us. Going to give it just a few seconds, let everybody trickle in. That waiting room is opened up. Super excited to have you guys here. Thank you so much for taking time and joining us. This is such an important topic. Our world has become increasingly more digital, and really excited to talk about how best to connect with our clients in that format. So welcome, welcome. Still see that number climbing, so I want to give it just a few more minutes or seconds, really, for everybody to jump in. We've got quite a bit of material we're going to cover, and so this hour is going to go by really quick. Please feel free to drop your questions into that Q&A box. We'll have a little bit of time at the end to cover some of those, so feel free to do that. But super excited to have you guys here. So let's jump right in. So today we're going to be talking about coaching in a digital world. So how to create meaningful connections, boost engagement, and leverage technology for better client outcomes, because that's what this is all about, right? As a health coach, we want to help our clients reach their goals. So how can we do that in the best way in a digital world? Go. So who am I? Some of you I know, some of you are new names. So really excited to have you here. My name is Ashlee Honeycutt. I am the Director of Health Coaching Operations here at YourCoach Health and a board certified health and wellness coach myself. And what is YourCoach? Hopefully we have met, but for those of you that we haven't met here at YourCoach yet, it's my pleasure to introduce you to YourCoach Health. We are the only operating system for behavior change powered by health and wellness coaches. Through our industry partnerships, we're a trusted partner in mental health support and behavior change coaching that empowers individuals in managing their daily stresses and their life challenges. We leverage evidence-based approaches to deliver measurable improvements in mental and physical health. So cool. Lots of things we could talk about there, but what does that mean for you as a health coach? It means that we're the premier virtual home for health and wellness coaching. We're an ecosystem that is built to empower health coaches while expanding access to their services through our industry partnerships. So for you, our coaches, this enables us, all of us, to work in a HIPAA compliant platform, which is tailor-made for health and wellness coaches by a health and wellness coach. I think that's always really cool to point out. Our platform is designed to give you everything that you need to run your practice smoothly. So that's that HIPAA compliant chat and video sessions to session notes, a comprehensive library of resources, a food diary, voice and video, lots of really cool things. But I think the cream and the cherry on top is contracting opportunities with us for coaching with our industry partners for those verified and validated coaches practicing on our platform. And of course, our mission is near and dear to our heart. And at YourCoach, our mission is to create a world where every individual has access to a health coach by 2030. So in short, to help create more happy and healthy humans. And that is what we are here to discuss. How can we do that? How do we foster connection in the digital world? So before we dive into all of those details, I'd like to pause for just a moment. In coaching, we know the power of intention and purpose. So every question we ask, we think about why we're asking it. What is the purpose to that question? We set a vision with our clients to help them know where they want to go, how they want to live, and what achieving it's going to feel like. So in that same spirit, I just want to pause and think about what that successful coaching interaction looks like for you in your practice. What feeling would you like your client to have when they sign into a live digital session with you and they're communicating with you? So you can jot this down if you have a pen and paper. You can write it in the notes app of your phone, or you can just reflect on this. We're going to take about 20 seconds. Just give it some thought for what feeling you want your client to have when they sign into that session with you. And if you want to share it, you're welcome to drop it into the chat. I always do love hearing it, but I know sometimes we like those reflections. They're very personal, so that's okay too. But I know from coaches on our platform, we frequently hear things like, I want them to feel safe. I want them to feel heard. I want them to feel like they have a partner and an ally in their journey. So there's no wrong answer here. There's lots of really neat answers. Yeah, warm, fuzzy, close, safe. Yeah, definitely all of those things. And that all starts with rapport. So what is rapport? It's a word that is for coaching techniques, skills, values, all of those pieces that really build trust between yourself as the coach and your client. So rapport is important for a health and wellness coach because it helps create that trusting and positive relationship between the coach and the client. A good rapport helps the client feel more comfortable discussing personal and sensitive health information, their goals, their values, all those pieces they hold really close to themselves. It becomes easier for them to open up and then can make it easier for the coach to provide effective guidance and support. So when you've established that rapport with the client, they're more likely to be successful in helping them, your client, achieve their health and wellness goals. If that trust isn't present, your client could resist change work. They won't get the results that they want, and they're likely to disengage. So rapport is really, really important. And if that rapport isn't present, the client's armor tends to come up. It doesn't come down. We're not able to peel back some of those layers and have those really meaningful conversations. Rapport is truly the first essential step in that relationship. So too often, I think, as coaches, we get really focused on achieving results for our clients, but ultimately that truly sustainable results will only come if that rapport is established first. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about this because it really is the base layer to that successful relationship. And of course, there are lots of benefits to our clients with rapport. One of them is just feeling empowered. So the client can feel more confident in trying new things, suggesting new ideas, and they can really feel supported in those new endeavors when that rapport is there. It can also create a sense of safety, and it can allow them to settle into that coaching process in a way that feels really natural and really secure. And by creating this safe space, the client's then empowered to be authentic, to express their opinions, what they truly desire. And that, of course, leads to them being able to honor their true self, their inner desires. They're more likely to follow through with their goals and their commitments. And when clients feel that that foundation that they set with the coach is built on that empowerment, that authentic connection, that genuine connection, the client's more motivated as they take their first steps. So having that safe space where individual experiences are acknowledged and considered throughout that supportive process allows for space to do things in a way that's uniquely individualized to that client and fully supportive of them in their journey. And of course, as coaches, we are specially trained to support that personal relationship. And we're equipped with lots of really great tools to understand the client, to help draw out their vision, their desires, their goals, so we can leverage all of those to help them better reach their goals. I think it's really neat to point out too, scientific studies all confirm that clients with whom they have rapport with their health coaches or their health professionals have improved health outcomes. So it's not just us saying it feels like they do. Science agrees they absolutely do have better outcomes. It's not just for the clients, though. We also get a lot of benefit as a coach with clients as we've built that rapport. The benefits are not one-sided. And we hear these from coaches on our platform all the time. So we hear all of those benefits their clients are seeing. But as we're talking with all of the coaches in our community, because we love to have conversations with the coaches in our community, we hear a lot of these too. Some of the benefits that coaches receive is it allows them to get more detailed information about their health and wellness history, including things that have worked for them in the past or maybe challenges that they've had. And it's often elements that are overlooked in the intake forms and questionnaires, which fosters an even more effective whole client approach. So simply put, we can do our job as coaches more effectively and efficiently when the clients trust us enough to share their unique stories and their healthy lifestyle goals. It also allows us to gain insight into how the client truly feels about the guidance, suggestions, or options that we're presenting as a health coach. Of course, we're not prescribing anything, but we do give anecdotal things about what's worked for our other clients, things that we've seen or heard. Maybe we're sharing resources on scientifically proven ways to help with whatever challenges they're having. And when we have that rapport, that comes from a really genuine and helpful place. And it allows that communication highway to really be open so the client can give us feedback and say, that may be a really great idea. I'm not sure that it's right for me. They will have that confidence to do it so we can find the best fit for them. Also, it allows us to get genuine feedback about the coaching process. We all have room to grow, and the best feedback comes directly from our clients. And that communication is gold. It gives us an opportunity to reflect and grow in our coaching skills. And then also gain experience with complex client realities. When clients are feeling connected with us as their coach, that safe space allows for them to share the many nuances and the complex realities that they may be navigating. So it just really opens that floodgate of communication. And of course, there's opportunity there to build empathy and improve our people skills. When clients feel comfortable sharing those complex realities, we as a coach can become more confident and comfortable utilizing those several spokes within our wheel of emotion to support and hold and give space for those realities. And we always love to talk about outcomes. Improved client retention rates is definitely a piece of that, which, as we all know, is great for the coach. It's great for the client's income or outcome, and it's good for our business. So it's often easier for us as coaches to retain the clients than to get new ones. And coaches on our platform agree when they take the time to build rapport, those retention rates soar. So definitely something for us to consider. All right, let's talk about why it can be tough to do this digitally. A lot of us are stellar at building relationships with people. It's why we got into this business. We are people. We enjoy talking to them. We enjoy connecting with them. But it can be more challenging in a digital format. 80% of all of our communication is through our body language, and video chatting diminishes how much we can communicate with our body language. In a normal face-to-face interaction, if we were sitting right across from each other, you can see people, you can make that direct eye contact. With the video calls, it's much harder. So hand gestures, micro expressions, lower body language, all of those things are much harder to read or impossible in some cases during a video call. Not to mention many of these cues last just a fraction of a second. So it's difficult to pick up in real life, but near impossible if you experience lag or poor video quality. So, and actually studies show that viewing your own negative facial expressions, such as frustration, worry, confusion, or even, when you're deep in thought, this is one that I know for me happens, if I'm deep in thought and I'm kind of just sitting there and staring, it can lead to those more intense emotions because you're viewing your feedback from your own facial expressions in real time. And it's a unique feedback loop where you can see yourself as you communicate. And that's not something that we do in our real life every day when we go around. So all of a sudden you can't read other people as well. And you can see yourself in full screen mode and get that immediate feedback. And so it kind of creates this weird bubble that we have to know how to navigate. It takes maybe a different skill set that we have to lean into. Matter of fact, according to Stanford professor Jeremy Bailenson, video conferencing closely resembles having a conversation with someone from just 2 feet away. So, which I think is really interesting because the American anthropologist Edward Hall actually describes that 2 feet distance as an intimate distance. And it's where we're usually only comfortable letting our really close loved ones or really close friends into that space. Or unfortunately, if it comes down to it, if we had an enemy with a physical fight, otherwise no one's in that little 2-foot bubble. And video conferencing makes us feel really physically close to someone, which can activate that fight or flight in the back of our brain. So getting this close also makes us feel always on. And we don't know when someone's looking at us and there's no time to relax or switch off on that video call. And being constantly on can make those video calls feel tiresome compared to regular social interactions. And if that wasn't quite enough, a 2014 study actually found that a delay of 1.2 seconds can make people perceive you as less friendly. So that's just a super bummer because delays with internet, with lag, they're not things that we can control, but they can affect the relationship that we have with our clients. So that is definitely something we want to take into account. And that's where it becomes really, really important to use a reputable HIPAA compliant platform for your video calls where you know that you're getting a professional service. Because if you're constantly having lag, if you're getting really blurry screens, that can really take away from that relationship that you're building with your client. So definitely something to consider. Always want to say YourCoach is a fabulous video conferencing feature. We use it all the time, really reduces a lot of those technical issues that you may run into. And then with that, one question that we get a whole lot from coaches in our community is, what coaching delivery is best? Should I do telephone phone calls? Should I text? Should I do video? And the simple answer to that, the best format for health coaching sessions, it depends on your preferences as a coach and with your client. Each format has its own advantages and disadvantages, and what works for one coach and client may not work for another. And it's important for you to discuss with your client what format works best for them. That's one of the reasons I really love YourCoach is that have that flexibility within the platform. You can chat with your client, you can do video sessions, and you can reach out to them with voice notes if you want to reach out in that way too. There's a lot of options, but you're always meeting them in the same place instead of trying to pull from, I'm going to send an email here, I'm going to send a text here. If we meet on video, we're over here. It really lends an air of professionalism and then allows you to do all of those things in one spot. Across all of our book of business and all of the industry partners that we work with, we get to see thousands and thousands of coaching interactions. And we find that over time, video coaching is wildly successful. People are really seeking human connection, and being able to see another human and connect with them is really, really powerful. And then you can leverage all of the other neat tools to connect in between those. But there's something really powerful about seeing someone's face and connecting with them. And so there's a lot of little tips and tricks that we can do for these video calls to set ourselves up for success and make sure that we're able to build that rapport in a very intentional and purposeful way. So we're going to talk about a lot of those. So let's go through some of those specific tips and tricks. I think this is really interesting. It's worth pausing here because it's something that fascinates me to learn. And it's how long does it take to make a first impression? We get answers all over the board on this, but research shows us that most people make a first impression of a person within 7 seconds. And it suggests that our brains form that first impression based on nonverbal cues, because often in 7 seconds, we haven't had a back and forth conversation yet. So body language, appearance, all of that becomes really important even before we hear what that person's saying. And that initial impression can then influence our subsequent interactions and opinions of that person. As a matter of fact, experiments by Princeton researchers even suggest that people can make accurate judgments of others within 1/10 of a second. So it's shown that people can accurately perceive certain traits such as intelligence, confidence, trustworthiness, all from those very first impressions. And I know we've all heard that impressions matter, but most of us don't realize just how quickly they are formed. So don't worry, I'm going to supply you with some evidence-based best practices to boost your odds of making a positive first impression. And one of those first ones is lighting. Having good lighting can absolutely influence the first impression you want to set with your clients. So showing up to your session with a clear screen, looking bright, attentive, present, all those can communicate to your client that you're approachable and engaged, and it gives them the impression that they can connect and relate to you right from the start. Have you ever been in a video session where maybe you can't see someone's face because the light behind them is so bright, or maybe it feels like you're meeting them in a dark basement because the lights are really, really low and you can barely see the outline of their face? Setting the stage literally for your session will communicate those nonverbal cues that you are professional and that you're showing up engaged and ready to interact with your client. So a couple of tips and tricks when it comes to lighting. Be sure the light is in front of you, preferably a natural light like a window or a natural light or daylight bulb. You don't want to have a window or a light directly behind you because it'll really wash out your face and make it hard for them to see your face. Light from slightly above the screen will illuminate your natural glow while eliminating casting shadows from the sides or under your face, which it kind of brings to mind like when people used to tell scary stories, they hold the flashlight under their face. We don't want that feeling in our coaching interactions. And then be sure to center yourself in the frame so that you're the focal point. We want you to be, the place where your coach is looking because they're connecting with you. So you want to be in the middle there. And then once we get our lighting right, we need to check out all the things that we can see. So we've all seen or experienced a time in the past few years, especially as this digital format has grown, where distractions in the background take away from the interaction. Matter of fact, there was a really funny video that circulated a while ago, and it was a news correspondent, and he was on, I can't remember if it was CNN, CBS, something like that. But he's doing a very serious interview about some world events, and he has a child, one of his children runs into the background, and then you see, I can't remember, I think it was his wife, but like crawling behind him, trying to snatch the child out. And we all know that these things happen, and it was really funny to watch, but not something we really want to have happen, right? And what surrounds us impacts both us and our client and our interactions. So we want to take a few moments to just kind of clean up the workspace, set ourselves up to maintain that professional, that clutter-free background. We can add special touches like fresh flowers, maybe a plant, and being aware that our clients or whoever we're interacting with may not share our political views, our culture. So we want to consider keeping that background neutral to ensure we're creating a safe space for our client. We want to be conscious of what's in their view and consider if it's appropriate before we turn on our camera. We only make that first impression once, and we want to be sure that that impression we're giving creates a safe space and comfortability for our client. So any images that maybe we want to consider would be, religious, cultural, spiritual, political, or otherwise. It may be perfectly appropriate for your practice, or it may not be. Know your client, know your message, stay true to your professionalism and your ethics. And while sometimes those types of images can bring us closer together if we share that common thread, we may not even know if they would be a trigger or bring up emotions or send unintentional messages to someone. So we want to make that call intentionally rather than leaving it to chance. So consider what items are in the background. Now, this is, I think, really, really interesting. There is actually science behind what the best virtual background for professional work is. And hint, it is not the ocean and palm trees, little animated GIF that we sometimes see behind people. In fact, a research study pitted a variety of different virtual models and backgrounds against each other. So they gathered a male model and a female model and had them pose with different virtual backgrounds. And then they had a whole panel of participants that were randomly shown those photos, and they were asked to rate the participants, the models, on their intelligence, their trustworthiness, their professionalism, and their approachability. And the different backgrounds were plants, art, bookshelf, a window with natural light, candles, and a blank wall. And so they were asked to pick which one for those. And there was one resounding winner. And I think it's both intuitive and surprising all at the same time. But the answer was plants. People were most likely to say a person looked more trustworthy, more intelligent, and more approachable when they were seated in front of plants on a video call. People who sat in front of a bookshelf were rated as the most professional, although the least approachable, which I think is really interesting. And actually, it's been found that if you have books in the background, that can actually be really distracting to someone because they're trying to see what the titles of the books are on the shelf. And so they're focusing on that instead of their interaction with the person they're on the screen with. So when in doubt, try adding a plant or two in the background. It could be a really, really neat way just to build that comfortability. And of course, we want to dress professionally. We as health coaches are professionals. So we want to take note of our appearance, acknowledge the importance of how we're showing up to our session. If you just had an amazing workout and you're feeling really proud, you're looking sweaty, you're grinning from ear to ear, those endorphins are super high. Maybe we want to call our friends and our family to share that accomplishment, but it might not be the most appropriate for that call with our client. It could send a myriad of unintentional messages to our client. So things like, does my coach expect me to look like that? I'm not ready for that. Or, man, are they really here to dedicate time to me, or am I interrupting something that they have going on? We want to be really intentional with that because some of those unintentional messages could disrupt our connection building, and it can really impact our dynamic. And we want to be really mindful of that. So while we don't want to show up in like a black tie and suit or a big formal gown necessarily, you know your practice, maybe you do. But I would say for most of us, that wouldn't be appropriate either. We do want to consider the message that we want to send. So a health coach, again, is a professional. We want to present that professional image when we're meeting with them. So we just want to take a moment to communicate that work ethic and that professionalism to them with the appearance we're showing up with. Now that we've got lighting, we're made sure that we are looking professional, we're ready to begin. We want to do a tech check. So a couple of things to think about here. Silence your notifications and ringers. We don't want phones ringing during sessions. We don't want all the notifications on our desktop going off. So we want to check those. You can also think about the web pages or apps that may be pulling on your battery to drain your battery, or maybe taking bandwidth away from your Wi-Fi provider, because we want our bandwidth to be the best that it could be. So we want to close out tabs that we're not using, shut off apps that are running in the background, check our microphone, our camera, our internet connection, our battery supply, all of those things. Rushing into a session and then finding out that your battery is about to run out, or your internet connection is not stable, microphone didn't reset or is connected to somewhere else, all of those can really detract from the session. And again, this is one of those really key components to having a reliable video session provider or platform that you're using, because all of those little tech pieces, they seem small, but they really do add up and they can impact your client's experience. And then go through all of the check there, make sure everything's in working order, check your audio. Do you need to move to a more quiet location? How's your internet connection? Do you need to reboot? Anything like that we want to do in the minutes prior to our session. And of course, take your client's privacy seriously. One really great way to build rapport is to make sure that their privacy is of paramount importance to us, because it's important to them too, right? We want to show that we're taking that seriously. We have an obligation and an ethical responsibility to protect their information. So to establish a safe space, you want to use a HIPAA compliant platform. And that's not just for your video calls. That's going to be for your chats with them. That's going to be for the notes that you keep on them. Whatever that mechanism is, we need to make sure that their information is protected. And so I'll tell you, I've used a lot of different things in my time as a coach, but I really appreciate having it all in one spot. And that's where YourCoach really offers something that's really helpful to coaches, because you have your sessions, you have your chat, you have your library of resources, you have your to-do calendars, you have their food diary, you have all of those client session notes that you're keeping after the session all in one spot, and they're all HIPAA protected, HIPAA compliant protected, and that's huge. And I think it gives a really big peace of mind, not only to you as the coach, but to your client. And that sets that stage for building that professional rapport and support, and creates that sense of safety in your coaching space. So once we've done all of those things and we set everything up to be comfortable for the client, I want you to consider your own comfort as well. Things like anti-glare glasses can be really great for eye fatigue, but be mindful of what's reflected in that glare, because they do reflect back what is on your screen. So can your client see what's on your screen? If you're checking your bank account balance and you left the screen up, it may be possible that you're sharing information without even intending or knowing it. Or it could, make it seem like you're distracted in your session. And also, just another point with glare glasses, it does affect eye contact in a session. And eye contact, as we know, is so important to rapport. So, we don't want that glare to be right in the center where we're trying to connect with our client. And that creates that sense of something between you. So there's a couple of things that you can do to eliminate that. And it requires just a little bit of intention in your setup. So your light needs to be bright, but not directly in front of you. You can use something like even as simple as cardboard to block the direct light, can be helpful. If you have the option to take off your glasses for that session, that is definitely one solution. But if you need those glasses for your vision, which I need contacts and glasses, I understand that. Then definitely we want to work around those, but to make sure that our clients can see our eyes, because that is so important to that sense of rapport. Also ergonomics, that could be a whole nother presentation. Like, there's so much on ergonomics that we could cover, and posture, preventative injury, all of those things. Just make sure that you're in a comfortable spot. Your chair is comfortable, because you don't want to be fidgeting and moving around your entire session. You want to make sure your desk is uncluttered, so that I find, an uncluttered desk leads to an uncluttered mind. So we want to make sure that looks good, that we have support for our body. If we're at a standing desk, we want to stand still. We don't want to be hopping back and forth, as that can be really distracting in a session. If you have an adjustable chair, maybe you want to make sure that that's where it's most comfortable, that it fits with, where your head can be kind of in the middle of your screen. You don't want to be way down here or way up at the top, where it cuts off at your nose. We want to make sure everything looks good there. Also have any forms, documents, notes already pulled up and ready for you, so you can reference those as needed. And something I really like to do is making sure that I've got my environment right. So for me, that means either lighting a candle or diffusing an essential oil that really lifts my spirits, because when things smell good, it instantly boosts my mood and it puts me in a better frame of mind. So I really enjoy doing that. Maybe you do too. And that kind of leads into that pre-coaching ritual. Whatever this looks like for you, but before getting on a call, think about 1 minute, just 1 minute that's going to help you set the stage for a successful call, whether that's taking 5 deep breaths, dancing to your favorite song, lighting a candle, or turning on essential oil, whatever it is that's going to help you take that moment to get present and get grounded and be prepared for the call. And that's going to be different for everybody. That's the beauty of it, but figure out what that looks like for you. And then, of course, if rapport creates trust, how can we do extra things inside of the call to establish it? There's a lot of different ways here, but we really tune into the client, and we're going to get on the same page with them as we begin talking with them. We get to know them in the sessions. We start paying attention to how they're feeling, their body language, their word choice, their tone of voice, and then we can subtly match that in an authentic and subtle way. So if the client is feeling really down today and they're talking softly, and then as a coach we respond in this big loud gregarious voice, they might feel a little defensive. Similarly, if the client's really upbeat, they're excited, they're enthusiastic today, and then we speak really softly and we don't show much emotion, that person could feel really unmatched in their energy. So part of establishing rapport is marrying your client so they feel more at home with you, like you get them, that you're on the same page. And it doesn't mean that we have to be disingenuous or wear different masks with different clients. It just means that we subtly change and show up authentically with that client in the spirit that they're showing up. So that we can kind of read that room and still match them. Again, it's subtle ways. It's not even ways that they would notice, but I think tone of voice is a big one that comes in there. And hand gestures could be another one. I find I've got some clients I've worked with that are really big in their hand gestures and they move a lot. And I find that I'm moving my hands more as I talk to them. So little subtle things like that, and subtle ways that we can kind of copy or mimic their body language so we're more in sync with our movements. And oddly enough, or perfectly enough, we subconsciously do this with somebody we like. So when we're hanging out with our friends, we're going to subconsciously mirror their movements. So it's a way to appear on the same page. So it's just something that we can be intentional about as well. It can be complicated on video calls because we can't mirror in the normal way because we can't see a full image. But we can still do some of those things like mirroring the hand motions or nodding our head with them. Lots of little things like that. And then also you can use the head nod. I talked about this a little bit. I think this is a really easy way to do some of that. I always nod my head when I'm in video calls, not excessively, not bobbing my head the whole time like a chicken, but I do want to give subtle head nods because it's one of the easiest visual cues that basically says, I hear you and I understand. So it can be a really good rapport builder, and you can easily do this when the other person is talking to show them that you're listening. And of course, the first few moments matter. We already talked about first impressions, everything like that. But from a scientific standpoint, our bodies are producing dopamine. So that chemical, it gets us excited, makes us motivated, makes us want to connect. And people who trigger dopamine activate the reward center in that prefrontal cortex, and it makes us feel like we're winning at something. And we all love to feel like that. Also, we can have oxytocin, and that's when we feel bonded to someone, and we produce that connection molecule of oxytocin, and it helps us become more in sync with our video call partner. In person, it's super easy to create these chemicals. We hug, we shake hands, we fist bump, we make eye contact, but virtually, there's a couple of things that we can do to mimic that, even when we can't physically shake hands or fist bump or anything. Science of People actually ran an experiment to find out what this could look like, and they wanted to know if just simply saying handshake or hug could produce the same effects as an actual hug or a handshake. So they created this experiment where they measured participants' immersion or the emotional connection that they have with each other through an app on the participants' smartwatches. Then they had the participants view videos of them saying neutral statements or warm statements. So neutral statements were things like, hey, let's get started, or thanks so much for joining, or I like your background. So just really basic kind of neutral statements. And then they also had some say warm greetings, which were meant to trigger that physical response. So things like, I wish I could see you, but for now I'm going to send a virtual hug your way, or sending a virtual high five, or here's a virtual handshake. It's nice to meet you. And they found that participants who watched the warm greetings had a 25% higher immersion response than the neutral greetings. And for all of our scientific people, that's about one standard deviation from the mean, or in simple terms, it's a pretty significant difference. So Add warm words to your first few sentences to drastically increase that rapport. You can also give a virtual wave. That can be a warm way to open the session. So something I love to do as well, you can give, just a little virtual wave as a greeting. It's a great way to show your hands. Showing your palms actually helps to gain trust. And, you can even say something like, hey, Sarah, that's an amazing news. Give me a virtual high five. Or, wow, Jane, you're holding a lot of responsibility with caring for your aging parents and still managing your family business, keeping up with your 3 kids and tackling all of the household chores. I'm sending you a virtual high five. And that can trigger that same feeling of connecting with someone, which I think is really, really cool. So it's just a neat little trick that you can slide right in there. Of course, you're going to know your clients best. You're going to know what ways might resonate most with them. But that comes with building that rapport, and it can be an easy way to continue that. Also, we want to make sure we're introducing ourselves. It sounds so simple, but it is something that we hear from coaches on the platform all the time is, I forget to introduce myself. You may have met the client before. This may be your first time in a face-to-face session with them. You really want to take that space, and you can just simply introduce yourself. And it allows you to establish what you want to be called as well, and gives them an opportunity to introduce themselves, because they may go by one name, their government name that they have given you for their sessions, but maybe they have a nickname they prefer to be called, and this can be a neat way to have that come up. You can also ask them what their preferred name is. That's another way, but you do want to use their client's name. Because it shows you're paying attention. It makes them feel valued, makes them feel heard. Actually, if you've ever read Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, one of the things he says is a person's name is, to that person, the sweetest and most important sound in any language. And so, in other words, if you want to leave a positive impression on someone, make them feel noticed, important, and valued, use their name. You also perhaps want to get permission to take notes. Your client's going to see you writing and wonder if you're engaged and wonder if you're paying attention. For me, because they use the YourCoach platform, when I'm taking notes, sometimes I'm typing. And if you haven't covered this with your client yet, they may wonder if you are working on something else, not paying attention, if you are maybe making notes a negative way. So I find it can be really, really helpful to just take a moment to ask their permission and explain why I'm taking notes. And that can really set a positive stage and show our commitment to showing up in that coaching relationship. And that could be as easy as, would it be okay with you if I took some notes? I really like to type some notes so I can keep up with them and refer back to them, and make sure that I keep a record of everything we talked about so that we can refer back to future goals, and you don't have to repeat yourself. It can be something really, really simple. And then, of course, we can explain that we're in a safe, private space, utilizing headphones if we are, because clients can't see the periphery of what's around us, and they may be wondering who else is sharing it with us. So it can be really helpful to let them know that we're in a private space, and anything they're choosing to share is going to be heard only by you. And of course, permission to share relevant information. So there may be a time in the coaching relationship we want to share resources. Instead of asking at every single opportunity, we can go ahead and preemptively during that first call get that permission to share things. If we need to, especially talk about scope or referrals later on, it's easy to have that permission kind of up front to share any resources you feel might be helpful for them. And then, of course, we've covered some of these physical cues, just reminders, eye contact, really important. And then facial expressions, we want to be mindful of the expressions that we're giving. Body language, that we're showing up, we're showing that we are interacting. If we're leaning way back, that can make it feel like we're detaching. So we want to make sure that we are connecting with that person in an intentional way. Tone of voice is a big one. People can read our energy. They can read the fluctuations in our voice. So we want to be mindful of those, and just our general presence. If we're showing up and we are committed and carried to that relationship, that's going to come through. And then after the session, we really want to be clear on our expectations and delivery. So we want to let them know when they're going to expect to hear from you, what that cadence looks like, what mechanisms you have. Again, I think this is really, really helpful when you have something like the platform and everything is in one spot, because they know where to reach you and they know where to look for the information that you sent them. But we want to be super clear on what that looks like in our coaching practice. Engagement's an art. We have found that through the thousands and thousands of interactions that we have been a part of with our industry partners and things that we hear from our coaches on the platform. Engagement is everything. And so but sometimes we need to give it little pillars of support. And staying engaged requires consistently checking in, asking them if there's something more important that they want to focus on right now. We want to keep it client-centered, client-led, and make sure that their sense of engagement is optimized. And that comes through that consistent engagement. And sometimes we may need to tweak or change that cadence, but you're going to know that when you have that rapport with your clients. And then lastly, unresponsive clients. We've all had clients who are super engaged, super responsive, and then poof, they just seem to kind of disappear. Where did they go? Why did they disappear? I think it's easy for us sometimes to take that on and think that maybe we did something wrong. But the truth is that things happen. Chances are it was not you at all. They got busy. Maybe their priorities changed. Maybe there's a big event going on in their life. There could be a ton of reasons here that a client maybe go kind of radio silent. But I think it's really important here where if you've established rapport and in the beginning, you've said something like, when motivation starts to wane or I don't hear from you for a little bit, what's something that's going to help you remain dedicated to your goals? What's going to be most supportive to you in those moments? Then we're going to know how to react to those things. So that can be a really neat way to pull that in. Also, between sessions, chat messages. It is a really great way to keep up with them. Again, I would really encourage you to do something through a platform like YourCoach, because I think it's a big challenge. One, there's no HIPAA compliancy with your text messages. That's a dangerous game to play. And then also it sets the space for your professional boundaries as well. So as you're texting and communicating with your clients, we really want to be mindful of a couple of things. One is grammar and punctuation. I know sometimes we get a little lax with that in our current texting environment, but to keep that air of professionalism, we really need to be cautious of our grammar and our punctuation. And there's a lot of things in there as well. So while we may be comfortable with things like using slang, maybe cursing a little bit, improper grammar, punctuation, the text abbreviations, holding the video session after a workout like we discussed earlier, or even in your pajamas. Like, I don't know, maybe all of those things are comfortable for you, but your appearance is your visual punctuation. So we want to put our best self out there, and then we want to make sure that we are holding the line as a professional. That comes into use of emojis and GIFs as well. So I love emojis. I love GIFs. If you say GIFs, I understand. I'm on team GIF, but GIFs or GIFs, they can be fun and a creative way to express yourself, but they can also be read incorrectly or interpreted in a way that was unintentional. And those forms of communication, they're less formal and can be more friendly, kind of casual, but you have to consider your relationship with that client, the intent of using them, and maybe being intentional or considering if there's a more efficient way to communicate that intention. And then of course, less is more. Anything with those, with GIFs, GIFs, emojis, all of that. I like to say use them sparingly in your chats and emails, and only use them if your client also uses them. I think they can also be kind of overwhelming for some people. So you really could follow their example. And that comes into mirroring their tone, like we've talked about before. A great example of that context is how you might feel if you got an email from a boss or a colleague that had the blowing kisses emoji. It might make you feel a little awkward, feel out of context, and so we want to use that towards the client reactions as well. And of course, expect the unexpected, have a plan. So fun story for you guys, our power is actually out and we're on generators. That's why you see some of the light dimming and going up and down in this presentation, but you plan for the unexpected, and that's where this comes in. So internet connectivity or microphone video challenges, we want to have a plan for that. So I always have 2 sets of headphones here. So if something goes wrong with this set, I have another set that I can grab really quickly and put in. Hotspots on your phone can be a great secondary thing if your Wi-Fi goes out. Just have a plan for those. Also distractions. So this could be either in your client's home or in yours. Things like kids at home, pets, repairman, the Amazon delivery guy is the case at my house sometimes. At some point, our best laid plans are going to falter and there's going to be a distraction. It's okay. Don't be afraid to call it out. You can just say, I apologize. I have all of my notifications silenced, but the Amazon delivery driver just rang my doorbell. The package will wait, but I do apologize. The doorbell was distracting. And then move on. Go right back to the coaching conversation. It's going to leave them with that resolved and not wondering, like, do they need to get up and get that? What if something's wrong? So we can kind of just nip that and then move forward. If there's something that you have to step away from your computer for, be sure to tell your client why, not just, hey, can you hold on a second? We want to say something like, I apologize that my dog is barking. Would it be okay with you if I stepped away for 30 seconds to remove him from the room so that he's not distracting us? I want to be able to be fully present and focused on our conversation. Then get up, take care of the situation, come back, refocus. Also, concerns over privacy. Clients have a right to know what happens to their information. So be sure to be clear in your initial contract about the expectations for handling their information. How's it going to be stored? Will the sessions be recorded? Who, if anyone's going to have access to that information? Of course, I cannot say this enough. I'm going to say it over and over and over again. Use a HIPAA compliant practice management platform like YourCoach. It is a fabulous way to lessen that burden on you and also give that sense of safety and security to both you and the client. Oversharing can be another thing to consider, and there's a delicate balance of when to listen, letting your client unpack what's coming up for them, and when to redirect them. What's your plan? How do you interrupt with grace? Have you thought about this? This is something we definitely want to have a plan for. Something I like to do is say, if I may, what you just said there was, and gently recap what they said. And that was really powerful. Can we focus on that statement? How does that relate to or impact your goals? So we're shifting from this kind of information overload into, let's wrap this up into something that's pertinent to your health and well-being goals. So you'll find the way that works for you for that, but definitely have a plan for it. Also, political stances, inappropriate photos, statements, have a plan for how you're going to handle those. It's going to save you a world of trouble. If sharing pictures is part of your expectation or your client's desire in your coaching, designate what's appropriate for those ahead of time. Again, have a plan. And then finally, if you feel that there's any statements or actions that maybe are medical emergencies, it can be really hard to prepare for these, but you have to have a plan. So prepare for those. While we hope it never, ever happens, it's better to have a plan in place if it does. So know what that looks like for you. Are you assessing the situation? Is everybody safe? Do they need to get to safety? Are they conscious? Do they need to hang up and contact 911? Be prepared for anything. While we have the small screen to connect, in the moment, we may be their lifeline. And while it's not within our scope of practice to give medical advice, we do want to make sure that they're safe, and we do want to make sure they can connect with the appropriate resources if something like that comes up. So do you know the signs of a stroke, of a heart attack? And then do you have a plan for how to encourage them to connect with emergency help in that moment? I know those are uncomfortable situations, but they come back to rapport. When there's trust and rapport in the relationship, those tricky, scary, those awkward moments don't have to be uncomfortable. We can have that plan. We can plan for the unexpected. So that comes to our key takeaways. What you do before the session matters. How you set up, how you show up, it sets the tone. So be sure to establish that pre-coaching ritual and be intentional with how you show up to your sessions. Rapport demands intention. So it doesn't happen by accident. Pay attention to the details. Be prepared, but be flexible. Coaching's all about letting the client take the lead. We can prepare for a lot, but think of them like guardrails versus train tracks. You know your clients best, and you have all the tools and resources to set your coaching relationship up for success. And of course, augment your practice with technology. That's going to reduce your administrative time. It's going to streamline your operations, and it's going to solidify your stance as a professional. It's really, really important. And YourCoach, we love supporting coaches. I know you heard me say over and over, we talk to the coaches in our community. We love getting to know our coaches. We love seeing them support one another. It's just a really neat, really warm, vibrant place. And we're constantly chatting with our coaches on the platform. And as a matter of fact, several of the features, the new features we've rolled out, have actually come from our community. So we really value their feedback and their interaction. To further our commitment to our coaches, we also offer our Rita and Jean Pressman Memorial Scholarship for practicing health and wellness coaches who are planning to sit for NBHWC's board exam to become nationally board certified health and wellness coaches. The scholarship does take care of the full cost of the exam, which is really neat in and of itself. However, we also give you access as a winner to the exclusive study group and study materials to set you up for success on the exam. You can find out more information about that on our website at www.yourcoach.health, and you'll see a link to it in the chat there as well. And then, of course, Lots and lots of neat things to support you in your journey. You have access to the wonderful coaching community that's on our platform. Of course, our team is happy to answer any questions that you may have. And we've touched on several of these features together already, but there's so much more that we haven't had time to discuss. The platform is truly your all-in-one resource for your practice. Voice notes, I think, are a really neat way to connect with your client. You can send them right in the chat, and you chat into the microphone and send that voice note. A really neat way. You can keep all of your client notes. I mentioned I like to type them as I'm meeting with a client. So that is definitely an option to have them all there. And you can color code them, which I love. Also, there's goal tracking, which is really huge. You can see clients' progress on their goals. They can track them. They can log it there. Really powerful for accountability. You have a food diary. That's really neat. Lots of different customizations and options there. And one I think we don't talk about enough, but is really, really neat, is co-coaching. So you can set up your practices in whatever way makes sense for you. We have evergreen, you can do monthly, you can do groups, you can do individuals, but co-coaching is a really neat option because so often our specialty as a coach may not fit everything that client needs. And so we can bring in another coach or professional to really support and round out that care team for a client. So you have that option in the platform as well. And of course, you can accept in-platform payments. So truly, you can do everything in one spot. You don't have to worry about going to a million different places. And that really reduces that administrative time. It's truly a one-stop resource for everything that you need. And of course, again, I'm going to say it because I don't think we talk about it enough, the community. Our coaches are fabulous. And I love hearing how coaches have learned from one another or picked up ideas from other coaches on the platform. So you can definitely join that community. There's a link in the chat right there. And you can download the platform either on your mobile phone in your app store, or you can do it online from our website. So lots of different options to get connected. And of course, I hope I get to see you on the platform. I want to stay connected and would love to have you on there, seeing all of the amazing outcomes for your clients, and also having you join us at other webinars like this. If you are currently in school or just graduated school from a health coaching program, you can reach out to them. Several of the schools have awesome little invite codes that give you access to some special perks as a congratulations for graduating your program. So you can reach out to them. You can also reach out to us. We're happy to help, but really hope to see you guys on the platform soon.